This is Thus Spoke Zarathustra. We're starting on page 9 with Zarathustra's prologue. When Zarathustra was 30 years old, he left his home and the lake of his home and went into the mountains. Here he enjoyed his spirit and his solitude, and for 10 years he did not tire of it. But at last a change came over his heart, and one morning he rose with the dawn, stepped before the sun, and spoke to it thus: "You great star, what would your happiness be had you not those for whom you shine? For 10 years you have climbed to my cave. You would have tired of your light and of the journey had it not been for me and my eagle and my serpent. But we waited for you every morning and took your overflow and blessed you for it." Behold, I am weary of my wisdom. Like a bee that has gathered too much honey, I need hands outstretched to receive it. I would give away and distribute until the wise among men find joy once again in their folly, and the poor in their riches. For that I must descend to the depths, as you do in the evening, when you go behind the sea, and still bring light to the underworld, you over-rich star. Like you, I must go down, as is said by man, to whom I want to descend. So bless me then, you quiet eye that can look even upon all too great happiness without envy. Bless the cup that wants to overflow, that the water may flow from it golden and carry everywhere the reflection of your delight. Behold, this cup wants to become empty again, and Zarathustra wants to become man again. Thus Zarathustra began to go under. Zarathustra descended alone from the mountain, encountering no one. But when he came into the forest, all at once there stood before him an old man who had left his holy cottage to look for roots in the woods. And thus spoke the old man to Zarathustra: "No stranger to me this wanderer. Many years ago he passed this way. Zarathustra he was called, but he has changed. At that time you carried your ashes to the mountains. Would you now carry your fire into the valleys? Do you not fear to be punished as an arsonist?" "Yes, I recognize Zarathustra. His eyes are pure, and around his mouth there hides no disgust. Does he not walk like a dancer? Zarathustra has changed. Zarathustra has become a child. Zarathustra is an awakened one. What do you now want among the sleepers? You lived in your solitude as in the sea, and the sea carried you. Alas, would you now climb ashore? Alas, would you again drag your own body?" Zarathustra answered, "I love man." "Why?" asked the saint. "Did I go into the forest and the desert? Was it not because I loved man all too much? Now I love God. Man I love not. Man is for me too imperfect a thing. Love of man would kill me." Zarathustra answered, "Did I speak of love? I bring men a gift." "Give them nothing," said the saint. "Rather take part of their load and help them to bear it. That will be best for them, if only it does you good. And if you want to give them something, give them no more than alms, and let them beg for that." "No," answered Zarathustra, "I give no alms, for that I am not poor enough." The saint laughed at Zarathustra and spoke thus: "Then see to it that they accept your treasures. They are suspicious of hermits, and do not believe we come with gifts. Our steps sound too lonely through the streets, and if at night in their beds they hear a man walk by long before the sun has risen, they probably ask themselves, 'There's the thief. Where's the thief going?' Do not go to man. Stay in the forest. Rather, even to the animals. Why do you want to be as I am, a bear among bears, a bird among... Why do you not want to be as I am, a bear among bears, a bird among birds?" "And what is the saint doing in the forest?" asked Zarathustra. The saint answered, "I make songs and sing them. When I make songs, I laugh and cry and hum. Thus I praise God. With singing, crying, laughing, and humming, I praise the God who is my God. But what do you bring us as a gift?" When Zarathustra had heard these words, he bade the saint farewell and said, "What could I have to give you? But let me go, lest I take something from you." Thus they separated, the old man laughing as two boys laugh. The old one and the man laughing as two boys laugh. But when Zarathustra was alone, he spoke thus to his heart: "Could it be possible This old saint in the forest has not yet heard anything of this? That God is dead? Chapter 3. Zarathustra came into the next town, which lies on the edge of the forest. He found many people gathered together in the marketplace, for it had been promised that there had been a tightrope rocker, and Zarathustra spoke thus to the people. I teach you the overman. Man is something that shall be overcome. What have you done to him, to overcome him? All beings so far have created something beyond themselves, and do you want to be the ebb of this great flood, even go back to the beasts rather than overcome man? What is the ape to man, a laughingstock or a painful embarrassment? And a man shall be just that for the overman, a laughingstock or a painful embarrassment. You have made your way from worm to man, and much in you is still worm. Once you were apes, even now man is more ape than any ape. Whoever is the wisest among you is also a mere conflict and cross between plant and ghost. But do I bid you to become ghosts or plants? Behold, I teach you the overman. The overman is the meaning of the earth. Let your will say, the overman shall be the meaning of the earth. I beseech you, my brothers, remain faithful to the earth, and do not believe those who speak to you of the overworldly hopes. Poison mixers are they, whether they know it or not. Despisers of life they are, decaying and poisoned themselves, of whom the earth is weary. So let them go. Once sin against God was the greatest sin, but God died, and these sinners died with him. To sin against the earth is now the most dreadful thing, and to esteem the entrails of the unknowable higher than the meaning of the earth. Once the soul looked contemptuously upon the body, then this contempt was the highest. She wanted the body meager, ghastly, and starved. Thus she hoped to escape it and the earth. Oh, this soul herself was still meager, ghastly, and starved, and cruelty was the lust of this soul. But you too, my brothers, let me tell you, what does your body proclaim of your soul? Is it not your soul poverty and filth and wretched contentment? Verily, a polluted stream is man. One must be a sea to be able to receive a polluted stream without becoming unclean. Behold, I teach you the overman. He is the sea. In him your great contempt can go under. What is the greatest experience you can have? It is the hour of the great contentment, the hour in which your happiness too arouses your disgust, and even your reason and your virtue. The hour when you say, what matters my happiness? It is poverty and filth and wretched contentment, but my happiness ought to justify existence itself. The hour when you say, what matters my reason? Does it crave knowledge as the lion his foa? His four? What the fuck? And as the lion his four? It is poverty and filth and wretched contentment. The hour when you say, what matters my virtue? As yet has not made me rage. How weary I am of my good and my evil. All that is poverty and filth and wretched contentment. The hour when you say, what matters my justice? I do not see that I am flames and fuel, but just are flames and fuel. The hour when you say, what matters my pity? It is not pity the cross on which he is nailed who loves man, but my pity is no crucifixion. Have you yet spoken thus? Have you yet cried thus? Oh, that I might have heard you cry thus. Not your sin, but your thrift cries to heaven. Your meanness lies in the sins cries to heaven. Where is the lightning to lick with its tongue? Where is the frenzy with which you could be inoculated? Behold, I teach you the overman. He is the lightning. He is this frenzy. When Zarathustra had spoken this, one of the people cried, now we have heard enough about the tightrope rocker. Let us see him too. And all people laughed at Zarathustra. But the tightrope walker, believing that the word concerned him, began his performance. Zarathustra, however, beheld the people and was amazed. Then he spoke thus, man is a rope tied between beast and overman, a rope over an abyss, a dangerous across, a dangerous on the way, a dangerous looking back, a dangerous shuddering and stopping. What is great in man is that he is a bridge and not an end. What can be loved in man is that he is an overture and an going under. I love those who do not know how to live, except by going under, for they are those who cross over. I love the great despisers, because they are the great revelers and arrows of longing for the other shore. I love those who do not seek first behind the stars for a reason to go under and be a sacrifice, but who sacrifice themselves for the earth, and the earth may someday overcome the overman. I love him who lives to know and wants to know so much so that the overman may live someday, and thus he wants to go under. I love him who works and invents to build a house for the overman and to prepare earth, animal, and plant for him, for thus he wants to go under. I love him who loves his virtue, for virtue is the will to go under and an arrow of longing. I love him who does not hold back one drop of spirit for himself, but wants to be entirely the spirit of his virtue. Thus he strides over the bridge as a spirit. I love him who makes his virtue his addiction and his catastrophe. For his virtue's sake he wants to live and go on and to live and no longer. I love him who does not want to have too many virtues. One virtue is more virtue than two, because it is more of a noose on which his catastrophe may hang. I love him whose soul squanders itself, who wants no thanks and returns none, for he always gives away and does not want to preserve himself. I love him who's abashed and the dice fall to make his fortune and asks, "Am I then a crooked gambler?" For he wants to perish. I love him who casts golden words before his deeds, and always does even more than he promises, for he wants to go under. I love him who justifies future and redeems past generations, for he wants to perish of the present. I love him who chastens his God because he loves his God, for he must perish under the wrath of God. I love him whose soul is deep, and even in being wounded, who can perish of a small experience, thus he goes gladly over the bridge. I love him whose soul is overfull so that he forgets himself, and all things are in him, thus all things spell his going under. I love him who has a free spirit and a free heart, thus his head is the entrails of his heart, but his heart drives him to go under. I love all those who are as heavy drops, falling one by one out of the dark cloud that hangs over man. They herald the advent of lightning, and as heralds they perish. Behold, I am the herald of the lightning, and heavy drop of the cloud, but this lightning is called Overman. When Zarathustra had spoken these words, he beheld the people again, and was silent. "There they stand," he said to his heart. "There they laugh. They do not understand me. I'm not the mouth for these ears. One must smash their ears before they learn to listen with their eyes. Must one smash their ears before they learn to listen with their eyes? Must one clatter like kettle drums and preachers of repentance? Or do they behave like do they believe only the stammerer? They have something of which they are proud. What do they call that which makes them proud? Education, they call it. It distinguishes them from goat herds. But it is why they do not like to hear the word content applied to them. Let me then address their pride. Let me speak to them of the most contemplative thing. But that is the last man. And thus Zarathustra spoke to the people. The time has come for man to set himself a goal. The time has come for man to plant the seeds of his highest hope. His soil is rich enough, but one day his soil will be poor and domesticated, and no tall tree will be able to grow from it. Alas, the time is coming when man will no longer shoot the arrow of his longing beyond man, and the string of the bowman will have forgotten how to work. I say unto you, one must have chaos in oneself. Alas, to be able to give birth to a dancing star. I say unto you, you still have chaos in yourselves. Alas, the time is coming when man will no longer give birth to a star. Alas, the time of most despicable man is coming, but he that is no longer able to despise himself. Behold, I show you the last man. What is love? What is creation? What is longing? What is a star? Thus asked the last man, and he blinks. The earth has become small. On it hops the last man, who makes everything small. His race is as ineradicable as the flea beetle, and the last man lives longest. "We have invented happiness," says the last man, and they blink. They have left the regions where it was hard to live, for one needs warmth. One still loves one's neighbor and rubs against him, for one needs warmth. Becoming sick and harboring suspicion are sinful to them. One proceeds carefully. A fool whoever still stumbles over stones or human beings. A little poison now and then, that makes for agreeable dreams, and much poison in the end for an agreeable death. One still works, for work is a form of entertainment, but one is careful lest the work be too harrowing. One no longer becomes poor or rich. Both require too much exertion. Who still wants to rule? Who obey? Both require too much exertion. No shepherd and one herd. Everybody wants the same, and everybody is the same. Whoever feels different goes voluntarily into a madhouse. Formerly all the world was mad, says the refined, and they blink. One is clever and knows everything that has ever happened. So there's no end of derision. One still quarrels, but one is too reconciled, else it might spoil the digestion. One has one's little pleasure for the day and one's little pleasure for the night, and one has a regard for health. "We have invented happiness," say the last man, and they blink. And here ended Zarathustra's first speech, which is called the Prologue, for at this point he was interrupted by the clamor and delight of the crowd. "Give us this last man, O Zarathustra," they shouted. "Turn us into these last men, and we shall make you a gift of the overman." And the people jubilated and clucked with their tongues. And Zarathustra became sad and said to his heart, "You do not understand me. I am not the mouth for these ears. I seem to have lived too long in the mountains. I've listened too much to the brooks and to the trees. Now I talk to them as to a goat herd. My soul is unmoved and bright as the mountains in the morning. But they think I am cold, and I jeer and make dreadful jests. And now they look to me and laugh. As they laugh, they even hate me. There is ice in their laughter." Then something happened that made every mouth dumb and every eye rigid, for meanwhile the tightroper had begun his performance. He had stepped out of a small door and was walking over the rope, stretched between two towers and suspended over the marketplace and the people. When he had reached the exact middle of his course, the small door opened once more, and a fellow in motley clothes, looking like a jester, jumped out and followed the first one with quick steps. "Forward, lame foot," he shouted in an awe-inspiring voice. "Forward, lazy-boned smuggler, pale-face, or I shall tickle you with my heel. What are you doing here between towers? The tower is where you belong. You ought to be locked up. You block the way for one better than yourself." And with every word he came closer and closer. But when he was just one step behind, the dreadful thing happened which made every mouth dumb and every eye rigid. He uttered a devilish cry and jumped over the man who stood in his way. This man, however, seeing his rival win, lost his head, and the rope tossed away his pole and plunged into the depth even faster, a whirlpool of arms and legs. The marketplace became as a sea when a tempest pierces it. The people rushed apart and over one another, especially at the place where the body must hit the ground. Zarathustra, however, did not move, and it was right next to him that the body fell, badly maimed and disfigured, but not yet dead. After a while, the shattered man recovered consciousness and saw Zarathustra, kneeling beside him. "What are you doing here?" he asked. At last, "I have long known that the devil would trip me. Now he will drag me to hell? Would you prevent him?" "By my honor, friend," answered Zarathustra, "all that you speak does not exist. There is no devil and no hell. Your soul will be dead even before your body. Fear nothing further." The man looks up suspiciously. "If you speak the truth," he said, "I lose nothing when I lose my life. I am not much more than a beast who has been taught to dance by blows and few meager morsels. By no means. You have made danger your vocation. There is nothing contemptible in that. Now you perish of your vocation. For that I will bear you with my own hands." When Zarathustra said this, the dying man answered no more, but he moved his hand as if he sought Zarathustra's hand in thanks. Meanwhile the evening came, and the marketplace hid in darkness. Then the people scattered, for ever curiosity and terror grow weary. But Zarathustra sat on the ground near the dead man, and he lost in thought, forgetting the time. He was lost in thought, forgetting the time, and at last night came, and a cold wind blew over the lonely one. Then Zarathustra rose and said to his heart, "Verily, it is a beautiful catch of a fish that Zarathustra has brought in today. Not a man has he caught, but a corpse. Human existence is uncanny and still without meaning. A jester can become a man's fatality. I will teach men the meaning of their existence, the overman, the lightning out of the dark cloud of man. But I am still far from them. My sense does not speak to their senses. To men I am still the mean between a fool and a corpse. Dark is the night, dark are Zarathustra's ways. Come cold and stiff companion, I shall carry you where I may bear you with my hands." When Zarathustra had said this to his heart, he hoisted the corpse onto his back and started in his way. And he had not taken 100 steps when a man sneaked up to him and whispered in his ear. Behold, it was the jester from the tower. "Go away from this town, Zarathustra," said he. "There are too many here who hate you. You are hated by the good and the just. They call you their enemy and despiser. You are hated by the believers in the truth faith, and they call you the danger of the multitude. It was your good fortune that you were laughed at, and verily, you talked like a jester. It was your good fortune that you stooped to the dead dog. When you lowered yourself so far, you saved your own life today. But go away from this town, or tomorrow I shall leap over you, one living over one dead." And when he said this, the man vanished, but Zarathustra went on through the dark lanes. At the gate of the town he met the gravediggers. They shone their torches on his face and recognized Zarathustra and mocked him. "Zarathustra carries off the dead dog. How nice Zarathustra has become a gravedigger, for our hands are too clean for this roast. Would Zarathustra steal this bite from the devil? Well then, we wish you a good meal. If only the devil were not a better thief than Zarathustra, he would steal them both. He would gobble them up." And they laughed and put their heads together. Zarathustra never said a word and went on his way. When he had walked 2 hours past forests and swamps, he heard so much of the hungry howling of the wolves that he himself felt hungry. So he stopped at a lonely house at which a light was burning. "Like a robber, hunger overtakes me, Zarathustra," said Zarathustra. "In forests and swamps my hunger overtakes me, and in the middle of the deep of the night my hunger is certainly capricious. Often it comes to me only after meal, and today it did not come at all day. Where could it have been?" And at that Zarathustra knocked on the door of the house. An old man appeared carrying the light and asked, "Who's that who comes to me and to my bad sleep?" "A living and a dead man," said Zarathustra. "Give me something to eat and to drink. I forget about it during the day. He who feeds the hungry refreshes his own soul. Thus speaks wisdom." When the old man went away, but returned shortly and offered Zarathustra bread and wine. "This is an evil region for the hungry," he said, "but that is why I live here. Beast and man come to me, the hermit, but bid your companion to eat and drink. He is wearier than you are." Zarathustra replied, "My companion is dead. I should hardly be able to persuade him." "I don't care," said the old man peevishly. "Whoever knocks at my door must also take what I offer. Eat and be off." Thereupon Zarathustra walked another 2 hours, trusting the path and the light of the stars, for he was used to walking at night. He was used to walking at night, and he liked to look in the face of all those that slept. But when the dawn came, Zarathustra found himself in a deep forest, and he did not see a path anywhere. So he laid the dead man into a hollow tree, for he wanted to protect him from the wolves, and he lay himself down onto the ground in the moss, his head under the tree. He soon fell asleep, his body weary, but his soul unmoved. For a long time Zarathustra slept, and not only dawn passed over his face, but the morning too. And at last, however, his eyes opened. Amazed, Zarathustra looked into the woods, in the silence. Amazed, he looked into himself. Then he rose quickly, like a seafarer who suddenly sees land and jubilated. For he saw a new truth, and thus he spoke it to his heart. "An insight has come to me. Companions I need. Living ones, not dead companions and corpses who I carry with myself wherever I want to. Living companions, who follow me, because they want to follow themselves wherever I want. An insight has come to me. Let Zarathustra speak, not to the people, but to companions. Zarathustra shall not become the shepherd and a dog of a herd, to lure many away from the herd, for that I have come. The people in the herd shall be angry with me. Zarathustra wants to be called a robber by the shepherds. Shepherds, I say, but they call themselves the good and the just. The shepherds, I say, but they call themselves believers in the truth faith. Behold the good and the just. Whom do they hate the most? The man who breaks their tables of values? The breaker, the lawbreaker? Yes, he is the creator. Behold the believers of all faiths. Whom do they hate most? The man who breaks their tables of values? The breaker, the lawbreakers? Yet he is the creator. Companions the Creator seeks, not corpses, not herds and believers. Fellow creators, the Creator seeks those who write new values on a new table. Companions the Creator seeks, fellow harvesters, for everything about him is ripe for the harvest, but he lacks 100 sickles, for he plucks ears and is annoyed. Companions the Creator seeks, and such as know how to whet their sickles. Destroyers they will be called, despisers of good and evil, but they are the harvesters and those who celebrate. Fellow creators Zarathustra seeks, fellow harvesters and fellow celebrants. What are herds and shepherds and corpses to him? And you, my first companion, farewell. I buried you well in your hollow tree. I've hidden you well from the wolves, but now I part from you. The time is up. Between dawn and dawn a new truth has come to me. No shepherd shall I be, nor a grave digger. Never again shall I speak to these people. For the last time I have spoken to the dead. I shall join the Creator, the harvesters, the celebrants. I shall show them the rainbow and all the steps to the overman. To the hermits I shall sing my song, to the lonesome and twosome, and whoever still has ears for the unheard of his heart shall become heavy with my happiness. To my goal I will go on my own way. For those who hesitate and lag behind I shall leap. Thus I let my going be their going under. This is what Zarathustra had told his heart when the sun stood high at noon. He looked into the air, questioning overhead he heard the sharp call of a bird, and beyond an eagle soared in the sky in wide circles, and on him hung a serpent, not like prey, but like a friend, for she herself wound around his neck. These are my animals, said Zarathustra, and was happy in his heart, the proudest animal under the sun, and the wisest animal under the sun. They have gone out on a search. They would want to determine whether Zarathustra is still alive. Verily, do I still live? I found life more dangerous among men than among animals. On dangerous paths walks Zarathustra. May my animals lead me. When Zarathustra had said this, he recalled the words of the saints in the forest, sighed and spoke thus to his heart. That I might be wiser, that I might be wise and through like my serpent. But there I ask for the impossible. So I ask my pride what it is, that it always go along with my wisdom. And when my wisdom leaves me one day, alas, it loves to fly away. Let my pride then fly with my folly. Thus Zarathustra began to go under.